Hey guys, and welcome back to Book Club Chapter 17. Before we start reading, a quick recap on Chapter 16. It was at the library, Miss Franny Block's library, Chapter 16, and she was just about to tell us a story about Litness W. Block, her great-grandfather, and him being in the Civil War. That's kind of what Chapter 17 is, guys. It's more continuing of that story, so I just wanted to mention it. It's pretty much just Franny, Opal, and Amanda Wilkerson. Amanda Wilkerson kind of stormed in at the end of chapter 15 there to cut in on the story. So she is there with them listening as well in chapter 17. Quickly though, talking about a few words from chapter 16, they said that Litness enlisted in the war. Let me see that. There we go. Enlisted means when you volunteer, when you sign up, you literally list your name down that you're going to go to war. So it's a voluntary thing he did on his own. He went in and enlisted. So sometimes you'll still hear this. He enlisted in the Army. She enlisted in maybe the Air Force. She enlisted in the Navy. He enlisted in the Marines. Whatever you're going to get in the military, or whenever you're going to get in the military, you enlist. So it means to sign up for the military or for war in this case. So that was one word I pulled out. The second word, I didn't think anyone would know, guys, and I actually had to look it up to be exactly specific. And I'm going to bring the line right out of chapter 16. It was when they were talking about war and boys and them enlisting. And it says, they have this abiding notion that war was fun. So the word I pulled out was abiding, and I didn't think anyone would know that. And like I said, I had to give it a second look to make sure I'm giving the right definition. Abiding means lasting a really long time, kind of like everlasting, those Energizer bunnies, it keeps going and going and going. But when you use the word abiding, you're usually talking about a memory or a feeling. So when they say an abiding notion is kind of a feeling. It's a thought. That's another word for thought. So I guess I could have put that down too. Notion is like another word for thought. So an endless thought, an abiding notion, a thought that never goes away. It keeps coming. So when you use the word abiding, you mean it's something that keeps going and going. It doesn't end. So a lasting feeling or a lasting memory. Abiding. Pretty good word. I only pulled out 2 for the chapter, and I'm really excited to keep going with chapter 17. I know Opal was as well. She said that she couldn't wait to hear the rest of the story because it was so important to her to hear how Litness survived after losing everything he loved. So I'm just as excited to keep going. So let's get to it. Well, Litness came home from the war, said Miss Franny, as she went on with her story, and found himself alone. He had sat down on what used to be the front step of his house, and he cried and he cried. He cried like a little baby. He missed his mama, and he missed his daddy, and he missed his sisters, and he missed the boy he used to be. When he finally finished crying, he had a strange sensation. He felt like he wanted to do something sweet. He wanted a piece of candy. He hadn't had a piece of candy in years. And it was right then that he made a decision. Yes, ma'am. Litness W. Block figured the world was a sorry affair and that it had enough ugly things in it. What he was going to do was concentrate on putting something sweet in it. He got up and started walking. He walked all the way to Florida. And the whole time he was walking, he was planning. Planning what? I asked. Why, planning the candy factory. Did he build it? I asked. Of course he did. It's still standing out on Fairville Road. That old building? Said Amanda. That big spooky one? It's not spooky, said Miss Franny. It was the birthplace of the family fortune. It was there that my great-grandfather manufactured the Litness lozenge, a candy that was famous all over the world. I've never heard of it, said Amanda. Me neither, I said. Well, said Miss Franny, they aren't made anymore. The world, it seems, lost its appetite for litmus lozenges. But I still happen to have a few. She opened the top drawer of her desk. It was full of candy. She opened the drawer below that. It was full of candy, too. Miss Franny Block's whole desk was full of candy. Would you care for a litmus lozenge? She asked Amanda and me. Yes, please, said Amanda. Sure, I said. Can WinnDixie have one too? I have never known a dog that cared for a hard candy, said Miss Franny, but he's welcome to try one. Miss Franny gave Amanda one litmus lozenge and me two. I unwrapped one and held it out to WinnDixie. He sat up and sniffed it and wagged his tail and took the candy from between my fingers real gentle. He tried to chew on it, and when that didn't work, he just swallowed it in one big gulp. Then he wagged his tail at me and laid back down. I ate my litmus lozenge slow. It tasted good. It tasted like root beer and strawberry and something else I didn't have a name for. Something that made me feel kind of sad. I looked over at Amanda, and she was sucking on her candy and thinking hard. Do you like it? Miss Franny asked me. Yes, ma'am, I told her. What about you, Amanda? Do you like your litmus lozenge? Yes, ma'am, she said, but it makes me think of things I feel sad about. I wondered what in the world Amanda Wilkerson had to feel sad about. She wasn't new in town. She had a mama and a daddy. I had seen her with them at church. There's a secret ingredient in there, Miss Franny said. I know it, I told her. I can taste it. What is it? Sorrow, said Miss Franny. Not everybody can taste it, children especially. Seem to have a hard time knowing it's there. I taste it, I said. And me too, said Amanda. Well then, Miss Franny said, you've probably both had your fair share of sadness. I had to move away from Watley and leave all my friends, I said. That is one sadness I have. And Dunlap and Stevie Dewberry are always picking on me. There's another. And the biggest one of my biggest sadness, is my mama left me when I was still small. And I can hardly remember her. I keep hoping I'll get to meet her and tell her some stories. It makes me miss Carson, said Amanda. She sounded like she was going to cry. I have to go. She got up and almost ran out of the Herman W. Block Memorial Library. Who's Carson? I asked Miss Franny. She shook her head. Sorrow, she said. It is a sorrow-filled world. But how do you put that in a piece of candy? I asked her. How do you get that taste in there? It's a secret, she said. That's why Lipness made a fortune. He manufactured a piece of candy that tasted sweet and sad at the same time. Can I have a piece to take my friend Gloria Dump? And another one to take Otis down at Gertrude's Pets? And one for the preacher? And one for Sweetie Pie Todd, too? You may have as many as you want, said Miss Franny. So I stuffed my pockets full of Lipness lozenges, and I thanked Miss Franny for her story, and I checked out Gone with the Wind, which was a very big book. And I told WinnDixie to get up, and the two of us left and went over to Gloria Dump's. I rode right past the Dewberry's house. Dunlap and Stevie were playing football in the front yard, and I was just getting ready to stick my tongue out at them, but then I thought about what Miss Franny said about war being hell. and I thought about what Gloria Dump said about not judging these boys too hard. And so I waved instead. They stood and stared at me, but when I was almost all the way past, I saw the Dunlap boy's hand up in the air, and he was waving back. "Hey," he hollered. "Hey, Opal." I waved harder. I thought about Amanda Wilkerson and how it was neat that she liked a good story the same as I did. And then I wondered again. Who was Carson? Chapter 18. All right, so that was the end of our story about litness. So we figured out why she was telling that story, because that's kind of how Franny's family apparently became pretty rich. She said that at the beginning, that she wasn't trying to be too prideful, but her family did have quite a lot of money, and now we know how, because her great-grandfather Litness made that candy factory, which unfortunately isn't open anymore, but it looks like Miss Franny has enough treats to last her. I like that we got another little snidbit about Amanda Wilkerson. That was your last question on your chapter 16 comprehension questions, was just to describe Amanda a little bit. And I love that we kind of got a little glimpse of her. We saw in this chapter she's not as rude of a little girl maybe as she started off to be. And she has a little sorrow in her back story too. Just like our Opal does. And I think Opal's starting to make those connections with Amanda. Add to our discussion post, though. I'm talking and I want to type it all in. I'm about to go in and add one. I hope to see your conversations added to our discussion post to talk about this book. And I'll catch you for chapter 18. Bye, guys.